Peace and love, peace and love. This is Damali from Acoustic Soul 215. Um, Responding back to your response to me, and I really do appreciate you taking the time out to respond to me. I apologize for taking so long to get back. Also, I've been extremely busy and didn't really didn't notice it. But I did notice it tonight, and I listened to what you had to say, and I also responded back. You know, typing on the thing. I didn't even know you responded with this video. Um, First, I want to say this: that I want to apologize if anything if anything I said comes across as being derogatory or racist or bigoted or anything like that. It's not meant to be that way. I have I have a warped sense of humor sometimes. Um, to know me is to know that that's the way I am. My sense of humor. It really is. It's not meant to. It's not meant anywhere dark or not meant to be anything ignorant or anything like that. It's like I got too many friends of too many different races and religions and things like that, and for for people to know me to take it that way, and you know you have a right to take it that way, and I apologize because you don't know me, and I have to be more cognizant of that when I send things out across the airways. And so I still appreciate you thinking I was being ignorant, but still being a gentleman enough not to take it that way and talk to me the way you did. So thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Okay. Um, Now about the things you said though. Okay. You know, I don't know much about Dr. Ron Paul as I'm assuming you do. I don't. Okay. Um, what I've researched on him, it is more general type information. I just sort of I generalize a lot of it. I read a little bit about his background, his history. I know he's a libertarian down there in Texas. I know about the children there in politics and Congress also and things like that. And and I have a lot of respect for his intelligence. I mean, he's obviously a very very brilliant man. There's no doubt about that either. I think sometimes brilliant people scare me more than anybody else because brilliant people sometimes to me make things which are illogical sound logical. They're very good at that, and I think they mean well sometimes. But the fact of the matter is, though, I don't think they sort of see the big picture. Life, life changes. Life is about evolution, and it doesn't. I think it's very funny and ironic how I'm always talking about that. One of my issues with conservatives is their fear of, for example, their Christian belief that evolution doesn't really exist. And sometimes it's like, how in the world can people this educated, this intelligent, not believe that evolution existed? You know, I on the other hand, I find that to be a complete metaphor for a perfect metaphor for their beliefs in other areas. I mean, I look at again Dr. Ron Paul. He believes in the Austrian economics. That's where that's where his foundation of the laissez-faire form of economy is founded in, and the laissez-faire economy, is. I'm gonna put you another way. I do believe in a laissez-faire economy. Okay. However, now here's where I think the big thing comes into play, and where the biggest disconnect occurs. Dr. Ron Paul says it in his manifesto of beliefs that basically, and this is also supported by the Austrian form of economics, they don't believe in the human component as it applies to the economy. Now, I'm an existentialist, and I particularly do not like putting the human component in most things either. I get what they're saying. However, I also understand that the way I believe and think as an existentialist is extremely different than the average person. Um, Therefore, that's where the flaw lies with the Austrian form of economics. That's why the laissez-faire economy doesn't work. It will never work anymore, because their belief is what is called quantitative. They believe in a quantitative version of economy. They don't believe in the human nature aspect of economy. They think because human beings are so you really can't count that in it. And to a certain extent, I think they're 100% correct. To a certain extent, but only to a certain extent. And that extent lies in the fact that boom, it does. Qualitative measures, which aren't really quantifiable, ironically, qualitative measures do affect things. It affects everything. I work with computer systems. When we design computer systems, yes, there's a way we could design computer systems so that they would work a lot better. However, when we design computer systems, we always have to take into account what the human being is going to do, what they're going to need. When we try to design a system, right? We do it's called elicit requirements. We elicit lots of people's responses on what they think a system needs to do it to work correctly. And these people give us, we say 1,000 people, and to be honest with you, we'll hear lots of different things. However, we basically take a median of what they're saying, and that's typically the right answer because people, the human nature aspect of it, people will put in their personal feelings on what they think is better, what they know is better, what they think is worse, what they know is worse. Human beings, I think they're close. I think the fact that they believe that human beings are so whacked out, which is why you can't really you, they believe that human beings are so whacked out you really can't take that into consideration in economy. I think exactly opposite of that. They're so whacked out that you have to take that into consideration, and that whacked out factor is exactly what throws everything off. And then, I mean, I got news for you. I'm gonna say something really crazy. In an ideal society, for example, communism is not a bad thing. It's not. Communism failed because it never took into consideration qualitative things. Quantitatively speaking, communism is a beautiful thing. But human nature, for example, everybody has certain aspects about themselves, and one is greed. We all have a certain amount of greed in us. Um, Communism calls for, you know, almost absolutely no greed. You had to be perfectly willing to share everything and work for a common good, for a common hope, a common theory. It sounds great on paper. Communism on paper is a beautiful thing. But in reality, it fails and it will fail because it is not taking into consideration the human factor. China works with communism only because that China as a culture has not had a human factor in its culture for thousands of years. It went from monarchies to aristocrats, aristocracies, and things like that. They never really had a human nature. It's never been democratic ever. So they never really missed out on anything. So making the transition to communism wasn't that big of a deal for them. They don't really think very individually. If you notice about that, they're very their economy is based off a lot of stolen things. They steal other countries' everything. And the reason why they have to do that is because when you think like a machine, you lack originality. And that's why communism doesn't work. Now, even China, with all their power and might and all those people, sooner or later, their lack of originality is going to bite them in the butt. It's just going to have to happen because they're they're not they don't support free thought, free will, which is based in qualitative thinking, the ability to think for yourself, the human nature aspect, the greed, the 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 lust, the whatever. I mean, whatever it is that pushes a person's into a person's buttons, that's what makes things different. And that absolutely, those factors absolutely go into effect with the economy. It absolutely does. And you told me what should alarm me is about world economies, global economy, is what's going on here, how jobs go overseas and things like that, why we can't produce things here in this country cheaper. Guess what? It doesn't alarm me. It should alarm you because you support conservatism. Conservatism is exactly what supports this. See, that's the thing. Conservatism conservatism, economically speaking, absolutely supports the top 2% richest people. And a laissez-faire economy, which is what you want. Dr. Ron Paul and you say you want a laissez-faire economy. And a laissez-faire economy is going to be cheaper. It's almost always going to be cheaper to go overseas to produce products because guess what? They don't have labor unions in China. They don't have labor unions. There is no such thing as the Teamsters in the Philippines. Okay, there's no carpenters union in Indonesia. Okay, it's a laissez-faire economy down there, so therefore they're getting away with paying people $10 a month. Okay, okay, we cannot survive $10 a month off here. The fact of the matter is that labor unions have driven the prices of things up so high in this country that it is hard for us to compete globally, and that's why even though you guys say you're for a laissez-faire economy, you can't be because the conservative party absolutely supports those richest 2% of the people taking their businesses across overseas to get it done. Because in a laissez-faire economy, it says, well, look, I'm supposed to make a profit any way I can. Why pay Joe the plumber $20 an hour to put together these pieces when I can go to Indonesia and have it done for 20 cents? That is a true laissez-faire economy. That is, if you take the human component out of economy, that is it. If you take the human component out of economy completely, my friend, there will be next to no manufactured jobs here in this country, and you're finding this out to be more and more true. That we are losing more and more manufacturing jobs. I don't think there's any way we could ever go back at this point. I think that's exactly what a laissez-faire economy does and did. A laissez-faire economy is exactly what caused the real estate crash to occur. They had no other choice. Nobody was watching anything, and they sat there and put a lot of fine print in, and those people, Wall Street, robbed everybody blind. um, there was no checks and balances, and that's what messes things up. Now, you also mentioned something about an economy based like a debt-free. Okay. Um, just like just like good old Dr. Ron Paul said, when they went off the gold standard, that was thrown out the window. It will never, it can't happen again. Unless you went back to the gold, unless you went back to it being on a gold standard, it can't happen. Um, and I don't even think there's enough gold in the world to support that anyway. I think it was kind of, I do think in a sense it's sort of a silly notion. I think based upon the economic strength and wealth of a country is probably the best way of doing the dollar. However, look at this again. China's China's dollar is so whacked off compared to the way it should be, and the trade deficit is so whacked off to what it should be. They're sitting there buying chunks and chunks of America up through bonds. So again, I don't know. You can't have it both ways. Do you want a laissez-faire economy like Dr. Ron Paul wants, or do you want more things in place to make this playing field more even? Because unless the whole world got on board with playing it even and playing fair, and unless the whole world had one uniform dollar, which it doesn't, the Austrian form of economics is outdated. It cannot possibly work. That way of thinking was a great way of thinking prior to the internet. Thanks to the internet, you and I can set up a business right here, right now, and sell it globally, worldwide, 24 hours, 7 days a week. That kind of technology was never in the minds of the people who came up with the Austrian form of economy. And Dr. Ron Paul, I'm sorry, is just outdated with that. He has to understand that the world has evolved. I know again that scary word evolution is coming into play again, but it happens. Evolution is occurring right now as I'm writing this. In a world economy, you cannot do these things you're saying you want to do because that's already the problem now. That some people do hold on to that type of belief. People like Dr. Ron Paul who hold on to the belief that an open market is a fair and even market, and the human nature shouldn't have any play, any aspect of it, but it will. It always does, and it's doing it right now. Um, Let me ask you a question.